Hello and welcome to another one of my hand histories. In this particular hand I am playing 6 max micro stakes. The first thing we should always do is look at the stack sizes. We have a slightly larger average stack. We'll just call this an average stack, slightly larger average stack, a large stack, and an average stack. So let's see what happens. It is folded around to the small blind, and the small blind makes a raise. In this particular situation, we have three options as usual. One is to fold, which Jack-9 suited in the big blind to a small blind raise. That is just too weak. We can always re-raise. That's not a bad option. The problem with re-raising is if this player re-raises us, we'd have to fold, and I hate to fold a Jack-9 suited in position. I would like to see a flop with that. So in this particular situation, I think the best thing to do is just to call and see what the flop is and see if we can outplay them on a flop if it's suitable to do so. So we call. So we come over here, we enter Jack-9 suited. I have to assign a range to him. I assigned him this particular range. You may agree or disagree. You may add some of the queen suited. You may take away some of the king's offs. That is up to you, but you gotta assign him a range, and so this is what I assigned him. By the way, this is Flopzilla. Flopzilla is an excellent program. I'd highly recommend you get it. It is worth the money. It is great at hand history reviews. It is beyond the scope of this video to go into detail on how to use it, but there's lots of great videos out there that I recommend you watch them because this is a tool you do need. So with a Jack-9 suited against this range, we're 42% favorite to win, so we are a slight underdog. So the flop is pretty good for us. This is actually a very good flop. We flop 2 pair. We have, let's see here, let's enter it. We have a 10 of hearts and Jack-9 of diamonds. So we unclick this button, and based on this flop, before any action gets to us, we are now 71% favored. So things have drastically improved. The small blind, being the initial raiser, checks. Well, this is a pretty wet board. We gotta bet something. We can't just let him get a free card. So how much to bet? Well, we want any jacks, 9s, or 10 to call. We would like an open-ended straight draw to call us. We would like the flush draws to call us. I think a half-size pot to a 2/3 size pot would be good in this situation. So I made a half-size pot, and the small blind calls. So what would he call with? Well, what I like to do is I like to highlight in red anything that would call that has us beat. So would he just call with a straight? Now, on such a wet board, if I had a straight, I would definitely be re-raising here. I would not allow, in this situation, the big blind to take another card. But you remember, we got to think about how our opponents play, not how we play. And most of the players at this level love to slow play. So yes, he would just call with a straight. Yes, he would call with just a set. 2 pairs. Well, there's some Jack-10s that do beat us. There's some Jack-9s. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to mark those in green. So he would call. Would he call us with an overpair? Definitely. Would he call us with top pair? Definitely. Would he call us with middle pair? These players hate to fold. I think he would call us with a 10. What about a bottom pair? Yes, I think they would even call with a bottom pair, just at least one street. What about pair less than the board? I don't think he would call with a pair less than the board. And no man hand, no. Would he call with all the draws? Yes. So we click this button to say these are things that he would call us with, and we're a 66% favorite to win. This pie chart means that we're beating 94% of his range. The problem is, this is the range that is beating us, that has a likelihood to continue to beat us or worse, improve. But as of right now, we're beating 94% of his range. A 9. That is an excellent card for us. Right now, there is nothing that is losing to us. So let's enter the 9 of clubs. We click this off, and as you can see, 97% chance to win. That is pretty much what I would call a lock. So let's see what the action is. He checks, so now we're way ahead. Oh, if we bet here, could we get a jack to call? Well, there's only 2 jacks out there. If he had a jack, he would certainly call. The problem is, there's only 2. If he had a 10, would he still call? Well, if he thought his 10 was good on the flop, he certainly thinks his 10 is good now. If he has a 9, would he call? Well, yeah. Problem is, there's only 1 9. So there's not a lot of things that could call us. Well, just for giggles, these things would call us. So that's roughly 12% of his hands. He would call us with an overpair. He would call us with 2 pair. He'd probably call us with top pair. So there's 26% of his range he would call us with. That means, 74% of the range he might give up and fold. And we don't want him to fold. We have a lock. This is a monster. It's not a lock, but it is a monster. I think we should bet something. Yeah, I'm torn. I could go either way. If we check and then bet, it's obvious that we have at least trip 9s. I would throw out a little feeler bet, at least 3 big blinds. But in this case, we check behind. I don't think that's the best option, but I don't think it's a bad option. And a 10. That's not a good card for us. And I'll show you why. Well, first of all, let's come back over here. Just for grins, we're going to check all these. So he would continue with 100% of his range. So just ignore the color. So we said 10 of spades. 10 of spades. So before this, we're still a 89% favorite to win. Let's see what happens. He checked. So we checked the turn. He checked the turn, we checked the turn. Now he checked the river. I don't think he has a 10 or a 9. He could have just missed his flush draw. He could have an overpair that he's scared of us having the full house. Let's just go through all of our options. So right now, if he has quads, well, more power to him. We're lost. That could only be pocket 10s. That only makes up 0.3% of his range. If he has a full house, we are losing to some of the full houses. Now the rest of these, he would check the rest. So based on that, we're still 89% favorite. So what I was worried about is if he had a 10, because then he'd have 10s full of 9s, and we'd had 9s full of jacks. And once again, there's only 2 10s out there. So I think we need to bet something. I really don't think we're going to get called. So let's go ahead and bet. I want to bet around a third of the pot. and just hope I get called. So we bet 40%, and he raised. Was not expecting the old check raise. Remember, these players do not like to bluff. Any bet on the river is either the nuts or the perceived nuts. Check raises are even stronger. So a check raise at any time is usually the nuts or close to the nuts, and a check raise on the river is usually the nuts. Not what I wanted to see, but let's see. Would he check raise quads? Yes. Would he check raise a full house? Yes. Would he check raise ace 10? You know, these are all the full houses. So he would check raise a strong full house, like, yes, I think he would. Would he check raise a weak full house? Yeah, I think he would. It's a full house. Would he check raise a straight? I think he would. Check raise an overpair? No. Top pair? No. Would he check raise nothing? Well, let's just say he would check raise nothing on a bluff. He missed his flush draw. In that case, we're 83% favored to win. But if he wouldn't check raise that, we're only a 50% chance to win. Are we beating the weak ones? I mean, we've got nines full of jacks, and these are nines full of tens. So we should change this to green. So it doesn't change our win, but we are beating 72% of his range, and I'm losing to 27% of his range. Well, obviously, we're not folding. Folding is just out of the question. The question is whether we raising. I mean, if you'll notice, he's got a VPIP of 24, PFR of 18. If you're not sure what these are, I recommend looking those up. But this is a fairly loose, sort of aggressive player. Well, let's look at his three bet stack. We only have 52 hands on him. That's what this number is. So 3 bet. I'm sorry, not 3 bet, check raise. You can't see it, but his check raise was 0 of 2. So out of just 2 hands, he's never check raised, but that's not a very large sample. Well, when I'm faced with a tough situation, I tend to go on the side of caution. I mean, the only thing that would be beating me right now is if he had a 10. So if he had a 10, he would have called. If he had a 10, I could see him checking, and if he had a 10, I could see him check raising. So a 10 is a definite possibility. So in this point, I think the best move is to just call. So we do, and King 7. Wow. Well, definitely a good call on our part. So King 7 is back to this nothing. He actually did turn a misdraw into a bluff. Was King 7 even on our... Yes, we did have King 7 in our range. So anyhow, it was a nice attempt. I think if he would have shoved, I still would have made a crying call. I wouldn't have been happy about it, but it is just very hard for me to fold a full house whenever there's a possibility of missed flush draws out there. So all in all, I think I played the hand good enough. If you agree or disagree, please leave a comment below, and please keep it constructive. Remember, I am just an amateur poker player, and I'm willing to learn. Thank you for watching this.